Hey there, let's talk about flicks, watchers and listeners. It is Curtis and Oz coming at you this week again. Oz, you want to stop it and say hi here?
Hey everybody! Thanks for joining us again. It's week 3, and hopefully we got a lot more ahead of ahead of you. So, welcome to the podcast slash YouTube video.
This is week 3 of John Carpenter 80s movies. So we got one more coming up after this as we continue on with our monthly theme. However, this week's entry is a personal favorite of mine, and Oz, I believe yours as well. And
Yeah, right up there for sure.
That is 1982's The Thing. What a movie this one is, my friend.
If you haven't seen The Thing, and we introduced you to Big Trouble in Little China and They Live, just to let you know, this is a whole different roller coaster you're going to be riding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they all definitely, you could tell they're all Carpenter movies.
Absolutely.
And we will roll into that as we go along here. But this one is not for the faint of heart, we will say.
No, not much fun. There is no fun in this movie.
No, there's not a lot of yucks.
No.
Not a lot of yucking it up.
And that's not a slight on anything. That's just the reality of even the characters in this movie several times attempt to have fun and relax, and they just aren't allowed to.
No.
So it is definitely a different mood. But to be honest, it's really our first pure horror film that we've watched.
Yes. Yeah, horror with a strong sci-fi element as well.
Yeah.
And definitely drama in there too.
Oh yeah.
So as we start things off, our cast of characters, it's kind of a unique casting process to this movie, whereas in that there are 12 lead characters with I think another sprinkled in, but it's primarily 12 people stuck at an Antarctic research station, an American Antarctic research station. The lead character, MacReady, R.J. MacReady, is played by the one and only Kurt Russell.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I feel as like we're doing a Kurt Russell podcast.
In some ways, so far, yeah, but I think we'll break that streak next month. Unless you bring a certain movie to the table that is streaming on Netflix, which you absolutely could. It'll definitely pick up the spirits from what the two I'm bringing.
All right. Well, so we have MacReady is the lead character and kind of the de facto leader of the group. I won't necessarily read off all the other characters as well. We'll get most of them as we go. Childs is one of the main ones. Doc, Cooper, and then Blair are the ones you'll hear us reference the most. Blair, played by the one and only Brimley.
Pre-mustache Wilford Brimley.
Yes, quite interesting to see a demustached Wilford Brimley.
A young, he still looked like he was late 50s something, Wilford Brimley, but
I think he was in his 40s, like his late 40s when they made this, but he looks like he's in his 70s.
Well, it's the same thing. Like over the summer, I watched Cocoon for the first time in quite a while, and you got Don Amici and Wilford Brimley, and if you look at the age group of those actors, like Wilford Brimley is an old man in the group, but he's like 30 years younger than Don Amici.
Like when Wilford Brimley entered the world, he was already like in his late 30s.
Right.
like he came out looking like a late 30-something-year-old man.
It's a very slow process. Benjamin Button that we got going. Wilford Brimley.
Yes. He really does, especially without the mustache here. He really does look like the Quaker Oats guy. Just
Absolutely.
With different hair.
Absolutely.
It's just hysterical. So getting into the plot of 1980s to The Thing. The opening sequence, we have the score by Ennio Morricone. I probably just butchered that name.
Nope, I think you got it.
A different feel from Carpenter, because I know Oz, you're a big follower of Carpenter's musical contributions and score.
Yeah, I am, and Morricone, famous for a lot of his spaghetti westerns with Sergio Leone. He's done some work with Quentin Tarantino as well. So he's very much a fabled musician and score creator for Hollywood films. But I still enjoyed. I enjoyed the score as much as I do any, but it definitely felt like a marriage between the two. There were still a lot of deep bassy tones that you've got, coming out of Carpenter's stuff. But where I think the score really shined here with Morricone is it felt like it was it's a score. It's an underlying music through a lot of the drama in the movie. Mm-hmm. Stuff that Big Trouble and They Live just didn't have, because there really was no downtime in those movies to fill a void. So, but I did. I love the score. Love Morricone's music. Love Dean Cundy's photography. Got to love that cinematographer.
Yep.
So, I do. Everything so far these first 3 weeks just feels very comfortable. We've got a lot of Russell. We got a lot of Keith David. We got a lot of, obviously, Carpenter and Dean Cundy. And, it's going to be nice after this first month to branch into something that's out of our element a little.
Yes, I agree. It'll be quite a different change of pace when we hit next month. One last note on the score. I love just the sense of dread that it creates.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just dread, and it adds to the paranoia that the characters feel. And it's so amazing.
Yeah.
We see that in the opening scroll, we see that the effects are done by a lad named Rob Bottin. Oz, would you care to go into a little more about Mr. Rob Bottin, the 22-year-old special effects
very
creator?
young. In the special effects world, you hear a lot of names, especially back in the 80s. You got a lot of Rick Baker, you got a lot of Stan Winston, and he's got a lot of Greg Nicotero, who's now kind of running the show with the Walking Dead TV series. You've got a lot of Tom
Savini.
I'm like, why am I drawing a blank on
Howard
Savini?
Berger?
Yes, you got a lot of these guys, but here you got Rob Bottin, who's coming in very fresh, and you could argue really steals the show. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that when you hit the special effects parts of this movie, you forget all 12 actors involved, and it's all practical, and it's all visceral, and it's all right there, and he just hit a home run with this one. If you like your horror gooey and slimy, you don't want to miss this one. He killed it.
Yeah. So we get through that opening scroll, and we open in space. And in the kind of the outer atmosphere of the Earth, and you see a spaceship, the old like flying saucer spaceship, fly into the shot, and then kind of enter the Earth's atmosphere over Antarctica.
We've got no time frame on this either. This is just we're under the illusion this is present day or whatever, current events. But yeah.
And then we see the Great Thing title sequence come up, that kind of burning away effect that they did.
And that's actually what they did. If I remember correctly, I heard this on a documentary or something a few years ago, but they really wanted that burning illusion. And I think what they did was they stenciled it out on a trash bag and then burnt the trash bag away, but they filmed it either through or behind a tank of water to kind of give it that ripply effect going there. And so, but again, just good use of practical effects. I don't know. I'm going to look it up while you're talking what the budget of this one was. But it didn't give the illusion that it was a very high budget film.
Yeah, very, very. Sometimes simple is better. Sometimes simple is better, as long as you do it uniquely and creatively. Now, I know this movie, Oz, before we get too far into the plot, as last I checked, was ranked 161 on IMDb's user list, which just kind of gives the testament as to the how cherished and well regarded this movie is.
Yeah, and and looking at the budget here, $15 million budget, opening weekend $3 million, gross worldwide 19. It was a financial success in that it made its money back, but you could argue it was a flop.
It was largely considered a flop at the time, and the biggest reason for that is that it debuted a couple of weeks after E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's favorite cuddly Reese's Pieces eating alien.
Changed America's view on aliens.
And also opened the exact same day as Ridley Scott's 1982 classic Blade Runner.
Changed America's view on sci-fi.
Yeah, and is in my top 5 all-time favorite films. The Thing is up there as well. So we get the shot now of Antarctica, winter 1982. We have a title card indicating that. The camera is kind of looking up at a cliff, and we hear a kind of heartbeat-like score from Morricone, and then we hear a helicopter. And then we see that enter frame, and the people in the helicopter are moving. They're moving fast. And there's the pilots, and there's another man with a pair of binoculars and a rifle. And they are close to the ground hunting a dog,
A dog.
a Malamute dog. And the passenger starts opening fire on a dog, and so that's the opening sequence of the movie.
Yeah, first people we see are dog killers, attempted
Yes.
dog killers.
Exactly. So you're immediately, as a viewer, you're like, "What is going on?"
Right.
Like,
Yeah, we haven't even been introduced to. We haven't been introduced to any of our American characters. We don't even see the dog right away. We see the helicopter, like you said, but we find out they're tracking this dog. Dog is just running nonstop. You get the fun camera cuts where they're right on top of the dog, and then they cut away, and they're a long way from the dog. But just the amount of despair and urgency we find out that they're Norwegian. Of these Norwegian officers, scientists, whatever they are, because if even a common sense approach, you are shooting a wild moving object from a helicopter with a rifle from the hip, and it's like the odds of them actually making contact are non-existent, but they are operating with urgency, with an alertness and a disregard for the odds. They're just, we've got to get this dog, we got to kill this dog.
yeah, it's the only thing that's driving them, and
Yes.
as a viewer, it's like how absolutely bizarre is this? We cut to a sign indicating the United States National Science Institute Station 4.
Right.
And you get a quick reveal of the exterior of the station. There's some rec room. There's some people playing ping pong.
I love that Carpenter introduced us to our main characters relaxing, because it's the last time they get to do it pretty much in the whole movie. It's rec time. We've got guys playing ping pong. We've got listening to music. We've got MacReady, in his office playing chess against Adrian Barbeau.
Yeah, who is voicing? Who is the voice of a computerized chess game?
Chess wizard, as it says.
Yes.
And so MacReady kind of cracked me up, though, because he's playing a game, and you can tell it's not his first game against the chess wizard, and he loses. And he does what any person stranded in Antarctica would do. He pours his drink into the computer, shorts it out, and he no longer can play chess wizard. But that's okay. He's got plenty of stuff coming up to do that keep him occupied.
So the helicopter and the dog are now approaching the station, and the sound of it is getting people's attention.
Yeah.
MacReady notices, goes outside. Childs, again, Keith David's character, goes outside, notices it's Norwegian. And then at this point, the helicopter, the passenger is now dropping explosives.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's shooting, he's dropping these incendiary devices after this dog. They're doing everything they can to stop this dog.
And we've not seen, and in a typical, and again, this par for the course for the last 3 weeks, we are thrust into the middle of something. Carpenter did the same thing in Big Trouble in Little China, and They Live. Of that, we are introduced to the story when our main characters are introduced to the story. Something's already been going on to cause this much ruckus, and now it has entered our zone of the viewer and the American research station, and it's gotten all of our guys alert. So dog makes it there. They land the helicopter. We've got one. The guy with the gun just gets out, and he doesn't even see any of our characters. He doesn't even. There's just no alertness. He's yelling something at him, and it's in Norwegian. They don't understand it.
Yeah, he's beside himself. Just
Right.
beside himself.
And he's still just firing away at this dog. And we've got a dozen people standing around. This dog he's all up on Clark, trying to get some attention. We find out Clark is kind of the dog wrangler of the group. And it's like, for our Americans, this dog, it's this helpless dog. And these guys are adamant that this dog is trouble. We don't know why yet, but we do find out.
So he takes another shot at it, clips one of the Americans in the leg.
Yep.
The pilot has now exited the helicopter, drops a grenade. It explodes, killing him and destroying the helicopter. And the passenger, the guy with the rifle, is still on foot, still going after the dog. And at this point, we're introduced to Gary, who's the leader of this outfit. He breaks out a glass and shoots this Norwegian dead in one shot.
Right. Yeah, right between the eyes.
And that's how we open the film. That's how we're introduced to the characters.
We are 5 minutes into it. So now Norwegians are out, the Americans have the dog, and we go back to attempted leisure time. We take care of Bennings. He's the one that was shot in the leg. He's fine. Mm-hmm. He can just drink it off.
As one does.
And so
as one does when you get shot in the leg.
And so what we've got now is, the guys stranded in Antarctica, they're not sure what's going on. One of them says, like, maybe it's World War III, maybe we're at war with the Norwegians. And so we're introduced to Windows. Windows is our radio guy. Yeah. Very nervous. You could tell even in the, how have they been down there? 2 weeks, something like that. They haven't been down there very long. But it's enough that some of these guys are already on edge and a little rattled. And Windows is one of those. So Windows is trying to radio out to anybody that can listen to figure out what's going on. We've got dead Norwegians. We've got a helicopter explosion. Can somebody explain to us what's going on?
Yeah. We were introduced to Palmer, who is, I think, that the team's kind of backup pilot and resident crazy guy. Yeah. I think that's kind of established early on. He's the crazy guy.
He's very skeptical. He's got a jean jacket with lettering on the back and an endless supply of marijuana.
Yes. The team's doctor, Dr. Copper, says he wants to go check out the Norwegian base, asks MacReady to fly him there. MacReady is a little cautious because of the inclement weather. Gary says they'll be okay. Once you get up, it'll be fine.
Just go.
And so they go. Copper and MacReady. Again, we're about 10 minutes in. They're in their helicopter flying to this Norwegian base. The dog is kind of settled in. Mm-hmm. It's laying under the ping pong table while a couple of the other characters, Palmer and Knowles, talk. Cut to evening in the base. Knowles, who I think sometimes it's with some of the characters, it's a little tough to get there.
I think Knowles was the cook.
The cook, yeah. That's what I gathered from that. Yeah. He's on his roller skates, listening to Superstition.
Oh yeah,
by Stevie Wonder.
I had that in my notes too. It was. If this is your second viewing of the movie, I don't think there's a better song choice they could have placed. That's not part of the score.
Yes.
It's the only song outside of the score that we've got, and it is absolutely fitting.
We see the dog is kind of slinking around, kind of getting you kind of get to know the base itself, the setting, as you follow the dog around, which is an interesting way to do it, especially since there's so much mystery around this dog. And then we see the dog walk into a room. We see a man's shadow kind of turn to the dog. Does not reveal who the person is. So there's clearly something going on here.
And scene fades out. And I mentioned fades out because it's probably the only time it fades. Like, it's such a deliberate choice of scene transition that you don't see very often. But this one, it really sticks out because you've got a lot of jump cuts from scene to scene. But in this particular instance, to build that mystery of, we see the dog slowly walk into a room with somebody who we don't know, scene fades out, leaves us. It doesn't cut right to the next one. It gives us just a beat to wonder.
Yeah, that timing is off just enough. That something's up. Something's not quite right here.
So we got MacReady and Copper, and who went with them?
I think it was just the two of them.
Just the two of them?
It was just MacReady. Yeah, this trip.
Yeah, that's right. The next helicopter trip takes Childs with them. So we've got MacReady and Copper. MacReady and Copper. They hit the Norwegian base, and it is mass destruction. Burnt to the ground. MacReady just keeps referring to him as Swedes.
Yes.
And then Copper keeps telling him, MacReady, they're Norwegian.
They're Norwegian, Mac.
Norwegian, Mac. And we see blood. We see smoke. It hasn't been very long since it's been blown up.
It's literally still smoldering.
Right. So you get the illusion that, all this is still happening very recently after our introduction with the Norwegians earlier. So it is, you could tell that something went down here recently. and it's just destruction everywhere. In our first introduction to Rob Bottin special effects, and it literally couldn't get any cooler than this one. We have a character in a chair who had slit various. Well, he's slit his own throat, or something has slit his throat. Anyway, but so cool as it gives you the illusion how it's cold in Antarctica. The whole world knows that. But how cold is it? Frozen blood.
Blood sickles.
Yes. And blood is warm. It's body temperature. And this individual, it's such a cool shot. It's just, he's just got just blood sickles just off his skin. It's gross, but at the same time, it's fascinating because instead of having characters talk about how cold it is, you just show it. Here's an individual whose blood froze before it could pool and drip.
Yeah, they come across a video camera. So they deduced that they had just filmed something. So they grab that to bring it with. They find a large ice block that has the middle hollowed out, about the size of a humanoid person, a humanoid creature.
Yeah.
And then they end up back outside. Before they get back in the helicopter, they find something else out there.
Yes, they find just this tangled mess of burnt bodies and strange limbs and just something that appears to be in the stages of metamorphosis. It's you can't tell what it is, but it's got features that are human-like, but it's clearly not a human.
Yeah, and when you get to the face and the head, it looks like two heads or two faces fusing together.
Right.
Like just enmeshed together.
Right. So what do MacReady and Copper do? Well, they bring it back.
Yeah, they throw it in the helicopter. Why not?
Why wouldn't you? So they bring it back. Another really, I can't praise this dog enough.
Yes. Yeah, what a great actor the dog is.
And so helicopter's on its way back, and the dog is just taking it all in. Just so attentive, watching this helicopter land as just very focused attention. I have here in bold in my notes, dog's a great actor.
Yeah.
It was very obedient, did what it wanted to do. Yeah,
I think I saw in the credits the dog's name was Jed, the literal dog actor.
Jed.
Jed, the dog actor.
So, bring it back, and it's time for an autopsy.
Mm-hmm. So it's Blair and Copper, because I think Blair is established as the team biologist. So it's him and Copper and Fuchs, who is kind of their like lab assistant.
Yeah, I was curious the role of some of these guys as well, but I agree with that. I'd say Fuchs was the lab assistant.
So they start with this autopsy, and Blair deduces that the organs in the inside of this humanoid creature that they brought back, they're normal human organs. These are internal organs.
Yeah.
Kidneys, intestines, liver. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, there was nothing. He just, everything looks normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, relaxation time again. Cut to another scene. We do a lot of scene jumping, a lot of time passing, which is fine. So we see the dog's bothering them. Not too bad, but they're relaxing, and the dog's there. And so
put this mud in with the others.
Get him in there. So Clark takes the dog to the kennel with the other dogs. And this is the first time we'll get there, but this is the first time we see, this dog, when he goes into the kennel with the other Malamutes, just so apprehensive, slow pace. Oh, just give that dog an Oscar.
Yeah, drags the dread out.
Oh, just magnificent animal acting. Lowers itself down to the ground. You could argue that if we didn't know this dog was such a fantastic actor, you could argue it's animatronics. Just the control that this creature, this animal has over itself. And that's the last we see of the dog, because take it away.
So Clark turns out the lights. They hear the wind howls, and then this dog that he just brought to the kennel, its head splits open. You hear hissing sounds, tendrils, alien
tendrils,
tentacles just come out of it. it just chaos ensues in this kennel. There's a dog tries to escape by biting a hole through the steel wire.
Oh, yeah.
Like the other animals are just beside themselves. They're panicking, just terrified, absolutely terrified. This creature who I think is pretty sure now established as some kind of alien, is attacking the other dogs. Mac's at the fridge, like in the next room over, getting a beer, and he hears these dogs just going crazy to the point that something spooked him, and he uses the beer can to set off the fire alarm.
Yeah.
So he, again, Mac's he's got good instincts.
Yeah,
you established pretty early. He's got great instincts.
He's on top of it.
So he goes in and kind of sees what's going on. Sends another guy to go to Childs and says, Childs, Mac, what's the flamethrower? Bring the flamethrower.
Right. And that's what Childs does. Comes in. Everybody starts opening fire on the dog creature. We can't. It's not a dog, obviously.
No.
Opening fire, and then just the mutation of this creature, the resourcefulness, the willingness to survive. I mean, it. And when you are a creature, and you could just, I mean, it just opens up these like towered fists and punches a hole through the ceiling, and and they open fire. Childs comes in, torches the dog creature. We get our first instance that something might not be right with Clark. Clark kind of stops everybody from shooting, even though he could see with his own eyes what's going on.
One of his dogs, who's clearly in agony, as this alien is attacking it, gets hit with a shot.
Yeah,
and he tries to wrestle Mac's gun away from him.
Yeah, so he's a dog lover through and through. Childs torches the creature. Next morning, another autopsy.
There's Blair and Bennings are autopsying the creature, and Blair, he wasn't too spooked or grossed out with this hybrid creature from the prior day, but these dogs, it's got Blair's stomach turning at this point.
Yes, and it is, and Rob Bottin really ramps up the gross factor here too. Just so much, just lubrication and just grossness all over. And this is Blair's pretty astute as well.
Yes, he is. He's for as kooky as Blair is, he's a good biologist.
Yes, he's got this figured out.
He notices that when this creature attacked these other dogs, it was imitating them, and he can tell that because he was looking at the cells, and there was a process of assimilation and then imitation, are the words that they use a lot.
Yeah, like you see, it absorbs the target and then creates imitations of him. Blair confronts Clark. Why wasn't the dog put up with the rest of them? So now he's a little suspicious.
Yeah, how long were you spending with that dog,
right.
Clark?
Yeah, especially that he's aware of how this creature survives, and knowing that it's been roaming free with everybody here. This is where the mystery and hysteria really starts to ratchet up.
The team is kind of back in the rec room. They're watching this video from the Norwegian camp. They see that they're drilling. They find this site, this location, and they're setting up charges. And come to find out, there's some kind of large ship, metal ship buried in the snow. So Norris and Mac, and I think Childs. It's hard to tell sometimes because
they're all bundled up.
Yeah, they go back out of the helicopter and find this site and find this huge spaceship, with a top hatch door kind of blown open, and steps away from it is this hole in the ice, the same size as this chunk that Copper and Mac found back in the Norwegian camp.
Right. Blair estimates that this UFO has been buried for up to around 100,000 years. And so it really gives perspective on that opening scene we saw where the UFO's coming into the atmosphere. And here's Blair like, no, this wasn't recent. This is even old. This is older than Captain America even. This has been here.
Another creature that came out of the ice.
This has been here 100,000 years. So back at camp, we see a lot of paranoia going on.
Yes, the characters are clearly starting to argue with each other.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on. Rightfully so. How could you begin to imagine something like this is happening? And given the setting in the absolute middle of nowhere, in the harshest climate and conditions on Earth, they've got nowhere to go.
And I'm going to transition just a minute. One of the things that I love the genre of horror where they put people in an already terrifying situation and then ramp up the terror. And The Thing is definitely one of those types of movies. Being I won't say stranded, but we'll say stranded. Being stranded in Antarctica is terrifying enough. And then for this to happen. Other movies that play into it are like The Descent. Where you are lost in a cave and nobody knows you're there. That's terrifying enough as it is. Then we introduce creatures. Or Hills Have Eyes. Your vehicle breaks down in the middle of the desert and nobody knows you're there. That's awful. Let's bring cannibals into the mix. It's just so just shoveling it all on top of each other really makes everything uncomfortable. And this is not a fun watch by any means, but it's such a great movie.
And Mac is now actively speculating that this is an alien. It crawled out, freezes in the ice. Childs is skeptical. Windows, and Palmer are making comments. Blair just sits there. Blair's just silent.
Yeah.
He's thinking about what everybody's saying and reflecting back on his research. And Childs asks Blair, "Hey, Blair, do you buy any of this?" And Childs just looks at him without saying a word. Yeah. Blair just looks at him. Cut to a computer model of
high tech.
Yes.
Don't dismiss how high technological this is.
High tech per 1982 standards. Yes.
Yeah, this is the highest of tech. High tech.
Yes. So Blair is watching this computer model, the simulation.
Asteroids.
It looks very similar to asteroids. Of this, and of course, there's words on the screen, kind of prompting the viewer as to what you're seeing. Interpreting it for us.
Yeah.
And it's cellular assimilation and then cellular imitation. So again, these words that the scientists in the group keep using, whether it's through their technology or themselves. And Blair's watching this, and it's giving these kind of live projections as to what would happen. It says that the probability of one or more team members being infected right now is 75%. And then if this were to reach civilized areas, the entire world would be infected in 27,000 hours from first contact. Yeah. So the gravity of what they're dealing with, it hits them. It's not just what happens to the 12 of them here.
Right.
This has the potential to be a global catastrophe.
Yeah. So we've got creatures' remains that they're going to lock it up. We got to store this. We got to lock it up. Have MacReady clear his stuff out of the room so they can lock the creature up. Fuchs wants to go outside. And it's nighttime now. He wants to take MacReady outside. Hey, we need to talk. Come outside. Just red herrings everywhere. In terms of who's who, what's what, especially now that we know that 75% chance somebody may be, not who we think they are. And so, Fuchs and MacReady go out. They're sitting in the tractor. They're talking things over. We've got the creature's remains in there with Bennings. And we see...
Bennings and, I think, Windows.
Yeah, and we see the blanket move. MacReady and Fuchs are talking in the trailer. It's just this great back and forth of what they're talking about in the tractor is happening as they speak. Fuchs is worried about Blair being off, and he's certain that these burnt creatures aren't dead yet. They're still showing signs of life at the cellular level. Cut to the blanket moving. Cut to Windows finding Benning. He comes into the room, and another Rob Bottin special. Bennings we see him in the middle of being absorbed / imitated. And it's
so disturbing.
It is.
It's so disturbing.
It's just gross. And it's lit. This is something that horror films hide off camera, hide in the shadow, give you a glimpse of. This is on full display. He's sitting in a chair, and this thing is just doing its thing.
It's wrapped around him.
Yes.
Just ooze everywhere.
Right. It's
blood
gross.
Everywhere.
It's gross. So Windows goes against MacReady and Fuchs, tells them about Bennings. Everyone circles around him outside, because Bennings busts through a door or busts through the wall. I don't know how this base doesn't freeze over first. You got Gary breaking a window out in Antarctica. You got Bennings busting through a wall. I mean, might as well. It's just everything. It's turning into a canopy. This base is.
So they're all around the Bennings thing outside, and it has these deformed hands, kind of blackened eyes, and it falls to its knees. As it's still trying to adjust to kind of what it is and what it's trying to imitate, and it looks at Mac and just lets out this awful guttural howl that just sends just shivers absolutely down your spine.
Yes.
Mac, again, being the practical, responsive, intuitive guy he is, they're standing next to a fuel barrel. He dumps it right in there and throws a flare and just burns it up.
Yeah.
No hesitation.
Nope.
No, let's investigate this. Just burns it up right there.
Right. And they realize quickly someone's missing from the group. It's Blair. Nowhere to be found. MacReady spots Blair then running from the helicopter. The only mode of transportation they have. Running from the helicopter. And he has just sabotaged the helicopter.
Yeah.
Which led me in my notes. I got to thinking at this point. We don't know. We know, obviously, Bennings was a creature, and we know Blair's a smart man. So, is Blair a creature trying to keep everyone on base? Or is he a smart human by trying to keep the creature on base?
Again, he's the guy who just looked at this computer model saying that if this gets out, the entire population is at risk.
Right. But, at the same time, if he's a creature, he's keeping his hosts nearby. I mean, nobody said there could only be one of these things. We find out later that that's the case, to where it's like, could they imitate multiple people and create their own army of organisms here? So, cut to Blair back in the base.
Yeah, and he's lost it. Blair's just flipped out. He has a gun. He's in the communications room. He's taking Windows kind of hostage. He's smashing he has a big axe. He's smashing the communications equipment. He's shooting at people who try to enter the room. They are able to distract him and disarm him and kind of knock him out.
Yeah.
But
and they go lock it. Go ahead.
The Childs confirms that the helicopter and the snow tractor have been disabled.
Yeah.
Blair's killed the dogs. Anything that could transport or communicate is gone. So they are truly isolated at this point.
Yeah, and so they don't kill Blair because they don't know, but they lock him in the tool shed. And he just, moment of clarity as MacReady's talking to him through the door. He tells MacReady, "Hey, I don't know who to trust, but you better watch Clark."
Yeah.
And so
watch him close.
Watch him close. And then, MacReady just closes the door. Which, kind of gives that illusion it's not another fade transition, but it gives that same feel because it's just blackness all around. But So, like you said, now we're trapped on the base. It's time to find out who's human and who isn't.
Gary suggests we hole up till spring.
Yeah.
Wait for the rescue team. And Mac's like, no, we can't do that. Like, this thing might be one or two of us.
Yeah.
Like, by spring, it might be all of us.
And Copper has the idea of, okay, well, we've got blood samples in the fridge. All of us have given blood. We've got blood samples in the fridge. And so they go to investigate those samples because they've got an idea of, we could test the blood and then compare our blood to the samples and see and they get there, and that's not going to work. Why isn't that going to work?
Somebody got to the blood first. All of the blood bags have been drained. You could tell it did not happen long ago because they're still, it's just pouring under the ground. But
right.
It's useless at this point.
Yeah. And so, then they get in this big argument. Who has access to the blood? Gary's got the only key. He only gives it to Cooper when Cooper needs it. Well, maybe somebody would take it. I mean, it's just this huge argument.
Yeah.
And so MacReady's got, what? We're going to drug Gary and Copper and Clark. These are the three most suspicious people at the moment. We're going to keep them down so we can control them.
Yeah, they burned the blood bags. Just anything that could have any part of biological remnants from this creature. They're trying to get rid of.
So we've got, we've lost our two medical professionals as well. Blair's a nutcase out in the tool shed, and Copper has been drugged. So he's, which leaves Fuchs. Fuchs is hard at work in his office trying to generate a plan.
He's following Blair's research,
right,
and trying to kind of come up with any more theories or plans of action here. And the lights go out. Someone walks by the door. There's this great musical cue.
Oh yeah,
when that happens, Fuchs ends up outside, lights a flare, and then I think that's really the last we see of the Fuchs character.
Well, he finds MacReady's rags. And Knowles earlier, when they were arguing over the reality that they're living in, he had brought in and had complained that somebody's been throwing their dirty drawers in the kitchen garbage. And so, this is the precursor of what's going on now, that we've got a piece of clothing that's got MacReady's name on it, and it's just ripped to shreds. And so, we haven't seen the creature imitate clothing. We've been led to believe that it's gonna tear through, and so Fuchs is now convinced that MacReady's a creature. But you're right. This is the last we see of Fuchs. He's now missing, and MacReady forms a search party, and they find Fuchs. He's burnt up and dead.
Yeah, he's outside. There's nothing left. You see his glasses on the ground.
Right.
Max speculates that Fuchs committed suicide when confronted by the thing.
Right. And then MacReady tells everybody, head back inside. Knowles, you hang with me because we're going to go check out my shack. Which, why would we do that? I've always loved this line because I turned the light off when I left. And then they camera pans, his lights on up in the shack. So it's just... Yeah. Oh, just it's such an uncomfortable movie to watch.
Tension, paranoia, distrust.
Yeah.
Any sense of camaraderie that they had is absolutely gone.
It's shattered. And so, cut to 45 minutes later. 45 minutes have passed since Knowles and MacReady headed to his shack. 45 minutes later, Knowles returns. No MacReady in sight.
The others are boarding things up. Palmer winces in chest pain.
Yeah.
As he's or not Palmer, Norris. Yeah, sorry. Norris winces in chest pain as he's boarding things up. Knowles comes in, says I found more shreds of these clothes up in Mac's place, so I cut them loose. I cut the lead line, which is the guide in the heavy snow and wind.
Yeah, he's not gonna make it back.
He left Mac for dead.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So Mac shows up.
Old Man Winter.
Yep. He ends up breaking in, and Childs has the flamethrower on him. Childs is about to burn him. Mac is holding a stick of dynamite.
Yes. Oh yeah. He's had enough.
Very resourceeful.
Yeah. I'm done with all of you. Yeah. He left looking like Kurt Russell. He came back looking like Chris Christopherson. Like he's just. I mean, he's got frozen hair everywhere.
Oh God, yeah. He looks like the big creature in one of those '60s Rankin stop motion Christmas shows.
The Bumble.
Yes, the Bumble. That's right. I couldn't remain. He comes back looking like the Bumble.
He does. He's the Yeti in Monsters Inc. Welcome to the Himalayas. But he's not as polite as those monsters are. He's got dynamite and he's had enough. Somebody in this group is the creature. I'm had enough of it. Anybody comes near me, I'm just blowing the whole place up. Yeah,
and he kind of speculates that if the creature really was that just kind of with that went after them with reckless abandon, it's afraid. It can't be all of them.
Right.
Because if it was, then it would just attack. But it has enough to fear. It's a survivor. That's the whole point of it, is to survive and replicate. So they end up back in the big room. The others that they tied up earlier are still tied down. Mac's got the dynamite in hand. Norris has a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah, because Knowles and Norris, they're trying to tackle MacReady to fight him off, and that's when Norris has his heart attack.
Yeah, he has a heart attack. Clark kind of steals a scalpel while all this is happening. Doc Copper starts to perform CPR on Norris, no response. Takes the paddles, the defibrillator, warms it up, gives one shock, nothing happens. Clear again. Oz, what happens when he goes to use that defibrillator the second time?
His chest opens up from chin to belly button, just giant teeth, and as Copper's on his way down with the paddles, this cavity opens up. His arms go into the cavity, clamps shut like a Venus flytrap, just tears his arms off. I mean, he comes up and he's bloody stumps. I believe, again, same documentary, that practical effects, they hired a double amputee actor.
Yep, I saw that as well.
They hired a double amputee actor and then put fake arms on him for this scene so that when they tore them off, it was believable. They weren't trying to make up effect the arms away. They just had them ripped off.
And they used kind of like a mask almost that they made of the actor. I forget his name, but the actor who plays Copper, and so he has this mask on, but you're clearly not looking at the guy's the face. You're looking at these stumps where this creature just bit this guy's arms off,
and they're just stumps. And I'm sure that for that double amputee actor, it was probably not a kind reminder, as he doesn't have those two arms to begin with. Like, hey, remember when this happened to you? And what would have been awful, though, is if that's actually how his arms were originally removed. Like, oh, this takes me back to my days in Antarctica.
It's funny you hired me for this project.
Let me tell you how it really goes. Yeah, he was also production manager.
I think it did craft services too.
But it was back in the 80s, so nobody was really sensitive to how people felt about things. You just did them. So we've got this Norris monster that's just, he's now grown this giant head, and I mean it's just gross, and MacReady, being resourceful, just torches it. Just takes the flamethrower to it, and then,
no hesitation.
No, not at all. Just burns this thing up, and this is such a cool part.
The Norris creature kind of falls backwards on a table, and the head stretches off of it. So the head detaches itself from the torso, grows these kind of spider crab-like legs, and starts crawling across the floor. So it is its own creature. So that's what it establishes, as that it's kind of like a worm, and that you can separate it, and one half could live and the other half could die, or even like the two halves could potentially survive as well. But it has detached itself, and it is trying to escape. It is trying to survive. Palmer spots it, looks up. You've got to be kidding me!
Right.
And then Mac torches it.
Yeah. It's such a cool scene. I'm so looking forward to putting these clips in the YouTube video.
I'm sure. It's just some of the great effects and the character reactions to it.
Oh yeah, like and really in this whole cast you've got four actors you've seen before. Wilford Brimley, Keith David, Kurt Russell, and the actor who played Gary. I can't think of his name. But I've seen these four before. The others I haven't seen much of, if at all. But they nailed it. I mean, the acting chops out of everybody involved. Well, I guess you got the Mauser guy or whatever, Clark. He's been in some stuff too. But you're right. Just the reaction scenes, they're just fantastic. So we are down to just stressed out. I mean, they all know what they're up against. They don't know who it is. And so MacReady's got an idea. Okay.
Well, he's seen this creature detach itself and try to survive. So he speculates that potentially every cell of this creature is in fact its own creature, and they're kind of an amalgam that can come together and take bigger forms. So his idea is that, well, we're going to take a sample of everyone's blood, and I'm going to heat up this hot metal wire and stick it in the blood. And if the blood does nothing, then the person is human. Yeah. But if the blood responds, because it's its own creature, then that's the giveaway. That's the reveal that a person is in fact a thing.
Yeah, Clark doesn't like this idea. And
No.
he charges MacReady, and MacReady just puts a bullet in his eyes. Like,
Yeah. Again,
I mean,
no hesitation.
Yeah, I mean, it's MacReady is just as much a survivor as this creature is. You know, he's got to do what's best for everything, and he doesn't pull any punches. There's no second thoughts to any of this. He just puts a bullet right to Clark.
Yeah. So the camera kind of cuts around all the characters. There's a shadow over Palmer's eyes that I noticed. Max starts to test Windows first. Again, Windows is kind of the skittish guy.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good.
And the suspicious acting on everybody, like, you know, like Windows. Okay. Just, he looks so nervous getting his blood tested.
And at this point, it's possible they don't even
that's
know
what I mean.
if they're an alien. If
that's
they
what I
are
was going. It's like, you know, that they're not, because the alien knows what it's like to be an alien, but nobody else knows what it's like to be an alien. So, like you said, they're unsure if they're even an alien or not.
Yeah, I mean, when you're that uncertain about your surroundings and the people around you, let alone yourself,
Right.
I could not imagine how unsettling that would be.
Right. So everybody keeps firing up. You know, MacReady's testing him. Test Windows, he's fine. MacReady tests himself, he's fine.
Doc's blood, because
Copper's
Doc
dead.
and Clark are dead. Test them both.
Yep, they're both fine.
I will say that the one of the little things that I love in this film, just the attention to detail. They use these little like glass petri dishes to put the blood in, and the scraping sound of the metal, this metal wire,
the copper wire.
That just scraping against the bottom of this glass with the blood. It's just like, it seems like such a little mundane detail, but I just love it.
Well, yeah, and it's intimate. You know, it just it brings to the close isolation of this movie that you're picking up sounds like that even.
And this little high pitched whine just in the midst of this tension.
And so MacReady's still testing them, and you know, everybody's tied down while being tested. Yes. MacReady releases them once they're fine. So he's fine. Windows is fine. We still have Gary and Childs and Palmer tied down.
Yeah. And so Windows has the second flamethrower on right now, and they test Palmer's blood. And as soon as the wire hits it, there is this squeal, and the blood literally jumps out of the petri dish.
And it's such a quick effect that I really didn't even think about it till right now. But the camera angle that we see is on level, if not even slightly below the petri dish, which gives the illusion, where'd it come from?
Yeah.
You know, like on the effects of like, he's holding this petri dish from underneath, and this thing jumps out from above. Yeah. I might investigate that. I'm kind of curious how that all worked. That's pretty impressive.
How they did it, or if they did it in reverse, maybe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, or it's probably just real. This is a documentary, by the way. We forgot to preface that. We're going to spoil this. We're watching John Carpenter's documentary, The Thing. It was filmed on the set of the original sci-fi movie Thing from Another World, but this is actually what happened to the crew of that film.
That's how Kurt Russell got his big breakthrough.
Yeah. Sorry, this is real.
So Palmer has been outed, and he is a thing, and his eyes bulge, blood is just spilling down his face.
It's so gross.
Gary and Knowles and Childs are still tied up next to him on this couch, and they're freaking out as one would. They're just screaming, and you know, Mac's flamethrower is not working. You know,
of course not.
So he's trying to get it. The Palmer thing breaks out. It attaches itself to the ceiling. It pulls itself free of the ropes, and it lands back on the ground right in front of Windows. And Windows has the flamethrower, and he points it at him, and he just looks. He's petrified,
frozen.
He can't act. He is paralyzed by the moment, and the Palmer thing's head splits in two. And if you could imagine someone's face splitting down the middle, going all the way to the back of their skull, and the two sides are now jaws, they clamp onto Windows' head, pick him up off the ground, and just ragdoll him across the room.
This is such an awesome movie.
Yeah.
Like some of you may be thinking, oh, you mean like Robert Patrick and Terminator 2 Judgment Day? No, not like that. Way better. Way better than that.
Yep.
You know, no offense, James Cameron, your special effects in T2 were top notch, but this is all practical by a 22-year-old. This is impressive. I was looking for a job at 22.
I think I was still deciding on my career path.
I think you were.
Yes, let alone establishing myself as a Hollywood elite.
Right.
So this thing eventually throws Windows to the ground, and he's dead. He's just
Oh yeah. There's no. And MacReady torches the Palmer monster.
Finally gets his flamethrower to work.
Yeah, he torches that one, and then just for no longer than Windows was in the grasp of our creature, of the Palmer monster. You know, MacReady's torched Palmer, turns around, and Windows is now reacting. Like he's been transformed and imitated. And
it's
so
kind of coming too.
Yeah, so MacReady, he torches that as well. I felt bad. You know, we've seen this entire movie destroy recreation. And so when he torches the Windows monster and he falls back into the bookshelf of board games, I was like, oh, man.
I know, like their ping pong table is broke.
Right.
I think they got a pinball machine in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, MacReady already broke his computer by
pouring
alcohol into it.
All they had left was VHS tapes that they've all seen before.
Yeah, the game shows.
Right, it's reruns of game shows. I know how this one ends.
Yes. So they settle back down and
I know, it just cut.
I
loved it. It just cut. We see all of this craziness, all this action, and then cut. We got to finish this test. More hot copper.
So he tests Niles. Niles is good. Niles puts on the other flamethrower. Test Childs. Nothing.
Right.
Gary. Nothing.
Right.
So all four of them who were there are
good.
clear.
We've got our survivors.
Yes. And so they decide, there's one person left. We got to go out to that shed and we got to test Blair.
Yep.
So Child stays back with one of the flamethrowers, just kind of as like a safety net,
right?
As backup, and the other three go out to give Blair the test. And it turns out that Blair's shack, the door's been ripped open from the outside,
right?
And they're trying to investigate what's going on, and they notice some loose floorboards. They pick them up, and something has tunneled underneath the shack. It's just tunnels, and there's a huge room at the bottom of it. And inside this room is a tiny version of the spacecraft.
Right. Yeah, Blair's been busy.
Yes.
Don't know where he got all this metal from. But he's been putting together a spaceship in the basement of this shack.
Yep. He took the time to bring a table down.
I noticed that.
Yes.
He's got he's got his lab.
There's lighting rigs around, so he's been very busy.
Yeah. He hadn't been out there long, but he's been active.
So we get a first person point of view shot back in the base. Something's walking around in there. Clearly something's up because it doesn't reveal who it is.
No.
Knowles looks up. He's still in the shack. He's kind of watching, just watching things, and he sees what looks like Childs with the flamethrower running in the snow.
Yeah.
And moments after he loses sight of Childs, the power goes out.
Yeah, the generator goes out.
And they realize it's going to be under 100 degrees. We're all going to die.
Yeah, so add to the urgency.
Yeah.
Of these guys, they've accepted a while ago without coming to terms with it that they're on a suicide mission now.
Yeah.
That our main objective, we have got to keep this creature here, and we've got to find it and kill it because now. Like you mentioned earlier, it's afraid. It's figured out what it's up against, and this is not a bunch of pushovers like the Norwegians were. Mm-hmm. These guys are fighting back, led by MacReady, who, like I mentioned, is just as much a survivor as this creature. So now MacReady's under the impression.
Apologies.
It's all right. MacReady's under the impression that this creature wants to find its way back into the ice and let itself freeze again. We'll take two. We'll try this again. And so they've decided we have got to either find this thing or we gotta blow up the camp. We got to get rid of this camp.
Yeah. So we're in the final stretch of the movie here, and they're throwing dynamite and Molotov cocktails into the rooms. There's one of those signature Carpenter shots of the camera kind of moving backwards down a hallway, kind of watching the action as if it was like someone who was like kind of tailing the group looking back.
Right.
They make their way to the generator room. Mac asks, "Hey, like, how's the generator?" And Gary says, "It's gone." What do you mean? It's gone. The generator is literally gone.
It's physically not there.
Yeah. So they split up the plant dynamite, and they kind of follow Gary. Gary's, I think his glasses fog out. Or no, his flashlight goes out. His flashlight goes out.
Yeah.
And Blair pops out from behind him. No glasses. And quite literally shoves his fingers into Gary's face. So that's not like he hit him upside the head.
No.
It's not like he surprised him, boo, and he caught him off guard.
Right.
He shoves his fingers into Gary's face because Blair...
Yeah, completely emotionless. Like, just... Yeah, you're right. He's entered his fingers into his face.
Right over his mouth. Which was brilliant because now Gary can't scream. He can't draw attention to himself in the situation. So he's literally, as he's incapacitating Gary, this Blair thing has also begun the assimilation process.
Yes.
So he's kind of weaponized the assimilation in this sense.
And so we see Blair dragging Gary away. His hand is now basically cocooned Gary's head, and it's just this sack. And he's just pulling him away.
Yeah, drags him away.
Just drags him away. Not by his hair, but literally he's engulfed
by
his head.
By his own face.
Yes, he's just pulled him away. And so, Knowles goes off. He
hears something, he wanders off.
Right.
You don't see Knowles again.
And we don't even see what happens to Knowles. We literally, Knowles is gone. We are under the impression, though, that the direction that Knowles headed towards... It doesn't take long for MacReady to realize, whoa, something's off. Like, my guys are gone. I don't hear anything. And that's when this creature underground just comes charging him.
Floorboards pop up. Tentacles are coming up everywhere.
Yeah.
It wraps itself around the dynamite plunger, which Mac has now prepared. And it just pulls it under. So Mac, he can't hit the plunger. He can't ignite the dynamite.
And we get, and then it surfaces. And this is the biggest creature we've seen yet. The biggest alien yet. It's this hybrid. We see dogs. We see humans. I mean, it is everything that this thing has absorbed at camp has manifested itself in this giant creature.
So you're assuming it's in addition to the dogs, it has Blair's mass. It has Null's mass. It has Gary's mass.
Right.
So it's huge. It's literally,
Palmer's.
Yeah.
Windows. I mean, everything that it's encased is, and you could argue probably some of the Norwegians. It's quite large. And MacReady throws some dynamite at it, gets a one-liner.
I love the front flip he does first.
Oh yeah,
he does this like front flip like unnecessarily,
right?
and then gets the one-liner. Yeah, you too.
And then boom, just the base blows up. This must have been like, Union Station in terms of the base, because one dynamite explosion and this takes out this entire base. What's remaining of it? Cut to final scene of the movie.
Yes, we got the exterior. Mac is still alive. He survived the explosion. He's walking away. He somehow found his bottle of JB.
Yeah, he got his... there it is.
Maybe he ran up to his shack or something. Maybe the shack was unscathed, but he found it. Slinked to the ground.
I'm going to run to my bunk right quick.
A little drinky poo to tie the night off.
I'm gonna go fondle some sweaters.
Yeah. fondue with cheddar cheese. So he slinks to the ground, and a figure emerges from behind him, and it's Childs. Still holding the flamethrower. Childs, you the only one who made it? Max is not the only one. Mac asks Childs, where'd you go? I thought I saw Blair. I went after Blair. I got lost in the snow.
Yeah. Sorry, Mac. And
they both agree they're gonna die.
Oh yeah. Like and it's just this standoff of we don't know.
Mm-mm.
Are they two humans? Are they two creatures? Are they one of each? We don't know, and neither do they.
Yeah.
And so Carpenter did just an amazing job of leaving this up to us to decide. I've seen speculation, and I can agree to it. I've also heard debunks of, in this final scene, there's catch lights in MacReady's eyes. You don't see any catch lights in Child's eyes. You very visibly, you could see MacReady's breath as he's talking. Child's has got no breath escaping. So you could argue that if you're paying that close attention, that Child's is a creature, MacReady is not, and they're just having this stare down.
Mm-hmm. Childs takes a drink from Mac's bottle, and the score kicks back in, and you get the final wide shot of the camp in flames, and that's it.
And that's it. That's
how
the
it
end
ends.
of the movie. Yep.
That's how it ends.
And it is
as bleak as bleak could be.
Desolate and isolated, and I've said it a couple times, and this is not a fun movie.
No.
If you've watched the last 2 weeks, you've enjoyed yourself. There's nothing fun about this movie. Nobody's having any fun at all. It's a chore. It's and not in a bad way, but there's a lot of horror films that are still fun. You could argue the Friday the 13th movies are still fun. This is straight horror. This is Alien. This is The Shining. This is just, we're setting a down mood, a dire circumstance, and you're just going to have to sit through it with us. And it was enjoyable. It always is. I love this movie so much.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk about it
Yeah,
today.
I am too.
So as we start to wrap things up, Oz, we have our weekly 3, 2, 1s where we go over our...
Do you want to rate it first?
Oh, yeah, we could certainly rate that.
Yeah.
Oz, why don't you go ahead? How would
right.
you rate the thing?
I would give this movie an entire pack of Malamutes. More Malamutes than you'll know what to do with. That's and they're a beautiful dog and clearly well acting. Yeah. Jed. Yeah, I give this movie 10 Jeds. 10 Jed the Malamutes.
Mm-hmm. And for my rating, I am going to go with I'm going to give it 12 Werther's Originals, not in the wrappings, who have been in someone's pocket for a while. So they're all kind of stuck.
Yeah.
They're all kind of stuck together.
They've been in Wilford Brimley's pocket for a while.
They were in Wilford Brimley's pocket. He's got to keep those hard candies got him because of the diabetes.
Right, the sugar diabetes.
Yes, the sugar diabetes. He's got to keep the warm clump of caramels in his pocket.
Right. So, but yeah, I'd say we're on to the 3, 2, 1s.
Yes, where we each pick our 3 goods, our 2 bads, and our 1 huhs of it. So I'll start us off with my first good. I love just the paranoia and the group dynamics. I am a counselor, a school counselor by trade, and so anytime I watch something in which there's like group dynamics, like the old Breakfast Club, I once wrote a 30+ page paper on the group dynamics of the first live action Ninja Turtles movie.
I didn't know that. I'm impressed.
Yep. 12 Angry Men, like those kinds of things where you see like the storming, norming, forming, like all that stuff performing,
right?
And you get to see them kind of start off in a performing, and then it shifts back immediately. You see the group dynamics shift, you see leadership shift, you see roles emerge. It's and all that under this veil of paranoia is just absolutely wonderful. The second of my 3 goods would be just some of those Carpenter shots again, like these tight hallways where with a moving camera, just giving that sense of motion and dread and urgency. I just love it. In particular, the one again where they're throwing the dynamite into the rooms and the camera kind of follows them down the hallway as they move down this hallway from room to room.
It's very like Scooby-Doo feeling. Where they're running room to room to, it's like you've got that, somewhat established shot from the hallway. You don't see what's going on in the rooms. But yeah, I've always enjoyed that too. It's just a different look on a scene. Because that camera easily could have been over their shoulders. They're chucking dynamite into a room, but we don't see it from that angle.
And then the last of my three goods for The Thing is just one of those moments, one of those I had to go with a special effects something here, and it was the scene near the end where the Blair thing shoves his fingers into Gary's face, and then pulls him away via a long like flesh sheath over Gary's head.
Yeah,
it's so gruesome. It's such an awful thing. But again, just with the effects and the way they did it, it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, Oz, what are your three goods, my friend?
My three good. My first one, Jed the dog. Just that dog set the tone for this movie from the start. Not in the running scenes per se, but once we got to see that dog in a close-up setting, it just acted his butt off. I mean, I was really impressed with the body language and the atmosphere. I mean, that dog oozed tension. He could hold a stare for as long as you needed him to. Just the way when he entered the pen with the other dogs, and just the apprehension, the slow steps, and just the slowly lowering himself down to the ground and then just freezing there, just looking straight ahead. And you've got other dogs in the room. I mean, dogs are pack animals. They react to each other. And this dog was just a notch above any other acting dog I may have ever seen. And I've seen all the Air Bud movies.
Yeah, I mean, this dog. I would think that this is the Meryl Streep of dogs.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's how good the acting was. Like Meryl Streep's got nothing. I think if this film came out in 1993, I believe the same year as My Cousin Vinny, Marissa Tomei would not have won that Best Supporting Actress award.
They would have given it to this male dog.
It would have been Jed. Jed would have somehow been there. Jed would have taken the Best Supporting Actress award at the 1993 Academy Awards.
Yeah, and the first time
I'm sorry, Marissa Tomei.
The first time a male has ever won a Best Supporting Actress award. It's all right.
Pardon my misogyny.
He was that good.
Yes. I think Marissa Tomei would even admit it. Like I got nothing on Jed the dog.
Jed's acting in 1982 has warranted an Oscar for so long that we're going to replace the person who probably doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
10 years later.
Yeah.
This we're a little late, but this Oscar goes to Jed the dog. He's not with us tonight.
Yeah, it's not even like an in memoriam or a lifetime achievement. We're just going to retroactively give your award to this dog.
You get it, don't you? So, my number two good is the genre shifting. There's no doubt that this movie is a straight horror film. It kicks off with a little bit of sci-fi, but really not much other than the introduction of an alien. But you could easily convince somebody that this movie is a mystery. The entire movie plays out like a miserable version of the movie Clue. You've got people all over the place. You've got unsolved mysteries left and right. You've got suspicion everywhere you look. But the difference is, whereas Clue ended with 3 potential endings on who, if it happened like this, and chasing Mr. But we don't get a resolution in this one. Everybody that we knew was an alien was killed. Everybody that we knew was an alien was killed. So we're left with 2 people suspicious of each other. Cut to credits. I mean, this movie is an unsolved mystery through and through. And to go with my number 3, when you bring Rob Bottin and with his gross out effects, that's what escalates this to a horror film. But underneath the core of it, John Carpenter made a mystery, and then just gored it up for the horror element. But so I really love that genre shifting. Obviously a horror movie, excellent mystery, with the amount of paranoia and untrustworthiness going on. It's just an amazing job on everybody involved.
Yeah.
All right.
So
hard to find them, but what are your bads?
Yes, my 2 bads. The first one is, I'll start with the something we referenced before. So they put Blair out in the shed because they couldn't trust him.
Right.
And they go to test him later on, and clearly he's been turned.
Yeah.
He's nowhere. Yeah.
He made himself a noose first.
Yes,
that he hangs at shoulder level.
I think that might actually tie into my next bad as well. But he's nowhere to be found. But he and or the Thing have dug this huge tunnel underneath the shack, which, I mean, kudos. That had to take a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But
Andy Dufresne couldn't have done one that quick.
No. And I don't think Blair had to crawl through 500 yards of what.
Right? No, he didn't.
So they get down there, and I mean, the guy's been hard at work, but there's a table down there. Like he took the time to bring a little table down there and set up these lighting rigs. I just love the table. I was expecting to see like a coat stand in the corner.
Right? It's real cozy.
Yeah, like a magazine rack or like some TV trays. Like, what else did he take the time to unnecessarily bring down as he built his makeshift spacecraft?
Yeah. Blair's an Inuit. Like,
yeah,
this is his Eskimo village. This is where he lives.
So I mean, kudos to him. I mean, I guess that table was a necessary element to have there when you're building your third-rate spacecraft.
Right. You got to have somewhere to put down your nuts and bolts.
Yeah, exactly. And then my other bad also, unfortunately, has to do with Wilford Brimley, and that's a little earlier in the film. He's gone cuckoo. He's off his rocker. And he's got a gun. He's got Windows hostage. He's tearing up the communications equipment. He just killed all the dogs, destroyed the vehicles, and he's shooting at Childs. And he runs out of ammo, and he goes to throw the gun at him, and he winds up like he's throwing out the first pitch at like a AA baseball game, and he winds up and throws it. And again, you get the idea of the space in the room. This is not a large room. It's maybe 10 by 12 at most.
Right.
And he's in the middle of the room, and he winds up and throws it, and it cuts to the gun hitting the wall, and it's clearly like a lollipop throw, like it's descending from its arc, thrown 6 feet away. But he's trying to throws as hard as two-seam fastball, and it just doesn't come out of his hand well. I'm sorry, Wilfred, but yeah, go back to the Quaker Oats box.
Right. Yeah, he did. He put it all into that toss.
He really gave it his all. Like, you get his face, like he gives like the John Rocker look at his face, and he just throws a lollipop.
We should give him the 1992 Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
We're giving out awards 10 years later. Why not?
Yeah. Sorry, Dennis Eckersley.
My two bad. Go ahead.
No, I'm just making another crack. Go ahead.
So
your two bads.
My two bads are, my first one is, there at the end, the splitting up. When we've got MacReady, Knowles, and Gary, they don't know where Childs is. They don't know where Blair is. They know what they're up to, and then they choose to split up. Gary chooses to walk away from these two, and as soon as he isolates himself from the group, boom, gone.
Yeah.
And Knowles, where'd Gary go? I better go check it out. Gone. Like, they should know by now, and they didn't. Yep. And but they aren't the survivalists that MacReady is, but they knew what they were up against, and they still made that fatal mistake. Mm-hmm. And so that bugged me a little bit. And the second one, it's kind of odd because this is an extremely small cast of characters, but it's still too big. There's a lot of characters in this movie that don't offer anything other than to be killed. 2 doctors. I mean, there's 12 people on a science research base in Antarctica, and we have 2 doctors and a medical assistant.
2 pilots.
Yeah, 2 pilots for 1 helicopter. I get the kitchen. I get that, but you got 1 guy cooking for 12, and we've got they're just, what was Child's job?
He was one of a couple that I couldn't figure it out.
Like,
like I think Palmer was the backup pilot. Childs, he was kind of undefined.
I don't really know what Norris was up to. I don't know what Benning's job was.
Yeah, Bennings, I have no idea. Norris, I'm guessing, is maybe like a geologist or something,
Yeah, I could see that.
because he went with when they went back to investigate
Right.
the dig site, and he was
Right.
the one who kind of speculated like this could be 100,000 years old.
Yeah. And so, we've got a lot of characters that really aren't there for anything other than just special effects fodder. And that's being nitpicky because again, we're dealing with 12 characters. It's not a lot by any stretch, but there was a lot there. And so what's your huh? What's your confusing part?
My huh? And then
Huh?
I had to kind of dig for my huh this week a little bit, and it was just kind of like, all right, like like Mac and Gary and Knowles are emerging from Blair's shack. They've just found his underground furniture den,
Yeah.
and and they're like, well, we're gonna die. Let's go plant that dynamite. And there wasn't any realization of like there was no existential moment or like
Right.
like realization of one's own mortality. It's just, all right, let's go blow ourselves up.
Especially out of Knowles, who was the least trained, least prepared out of all of them. I mean, we've seen him. So he wasn't as skittish as Windows, but we've seen him pretty on edge on a lot in this movie. And for him to just be like, okay, whatever we got to do.
Yep.
And mine, and this is for a demographic that is pretty small, I would think. But the beginning of the film, the Norwegians, they're yelling at the Americans. Everything that they're yelling in Norwegian was spot on the plot line of the movie. And so if you were an audience member in 1982 and you happened to speak Norwegian and you were excited to see this new John Carpenter flick and you're sitting in the theater only for 5 minutes in for the story to be told to you by the Norwegians, it's like, thankfully I haven't watched it with subtitles. I would hope that you can't just turn subtitles on for this movie and find that. But that was my It's like, to give the Norwegian pilot and gunman the plot of the underlying plot of the movie to just yell out in a language that could be understood by people. It just seemed a little like, man, I couldn't imagine having this movie ruined for you. Ruined lightly, of course, because it's hard to ruin a movie that's great. But to have a movie ruined for you that quickly because you happen to be able to understand the language being spoken.
I've never been more happy to not speak Norwegian.
No kidding, yeah. And I usually find several times a day that I'm proud to not know Norwegian. And when I was watching the beginning of this movie, that was definitely one of them. I was like, oh, thank the Lord I don't know any other language because I'm American.
And that's the language I speak.
English. So, all right, well, that's the thing.
That is the thing.
Yeah.
What a classic. What a gem that movie is.
Absolutely. If you're doing yourself a disservice if you haven't seen it. And I'm jealous. Well, not really, because I've seen it and we just spoiled it. But if you haven't seen it and you're listening to this, sorry, you should have watched it first.
It's your fault for not watching it and or being able to speak Norwegian.
Right. So hopefully though, I don't know I know they speak Portuguese in Brazil. I don't know if they speak Norwegian there because apparently, let's talk about flicks. Seems after 2 episodes, we seem to be a hit in Brazil as 80% of our downloads of our last episode, They Live, have been taking place in Brazil. So
I'm assuming it's all like Amazon basin as well. Like 500 miles upriver.
Right.
There's some kind of like lost settlement there that has like a land Ethernet connection, and they're just they can't get enough.
They just love it. They love 80s Carpenter, and because of that, they love our podcast. There was probably some sort of festival or parade in our honor this last week because of what we've brought to the Brazilian culture in terms of our conversation on Roddy Piper. And so we love you, Brazil. Keep listening. keep downloading.
I'm expecting us to get, matching statues a la the Jesus outside of Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, well,
that's how popular we are.
If I keep eating the way I have post Halloween, I think I'll just be able to go stand down there. It'll be life size. But no, it's all you guys out there that are listening or watching on YouTube, because again, if you haven't figured out, you could watch us talk about this movie on YouTube. If you wanted to know what we look like, you could find us there for sure. Of course, you hit our website. We are everywhere you could download a podcast. We're doing fine. I'm having a great time. I know you're enjoying it too. I really wasn't expecting any listeners, but we have people actually listening to this podcast.
We are grateful for that.
Very much so. Very much so. So, like, if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or whatever, feel free to give us a review, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever you do on your podcast apps. Because I know we really appreciate it. I'm a data nerd, so I like looking every few days and be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I sent you that, that screenshot the other day when I'm like, we have 7 downloads in Brazil. Later that day, we got like 29, like 20 some more. So word's traveling fast in Brazil. I admit I do have a cousin in Brazil, but it's just one cousin, and she's only in one town, and this is all over Brazil. But we've also got some kind of download in Singapore and something in Germany and in Europe or in England, and so in Texas.
Worldwide enterprise.
That's right. We're prestige worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide, wide.
So we should have called this thing Prestige Worldwide, wide. So,
hey Oz, what do we got on tap next week?
All right, we are going to wrap up our 80s Carpenter month and the first month of our podcast with another Kurt Russell movie, Escape from New York. Kurt Russell, Ernest Borgnine, Isaac Hayes.
Love me some Borgnine.
That's right. Isaac Hayes, Adrian Barbeau, Donald Pleasance. If you haven't seen Escape from New York, definitely worth a watch. It's another this Escape from New York is definitely going to feel more They Live Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. It is off the wall, just crazy futuristic. This one takes place in the future, where New York is a isolated prison, and the president flies over that prison and goes down for some reason. So, sweet movie, very dark, very fun. And so we're gonna round up our 80s Carpenter month with that. So make sure everybody likes, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your cousins, tell your neighbors, tell everybody you know. We really appreciate the loyalty and fandom. If we're gaining any, or if we're just getting a bunch of people that start a podcast and realize they listen to the wrong one and switch off. Stick around. We do have a lot of fun. And so I enjoy this every week. I'm looking forward to next month just as much as I'm looking forward to getting next month over with. We will announce next week what we're doing next month.
Yes. We are in for, I don't know if a treat is the right word. We're in for an experience.
Yeah, we're in. And I've told some people in person what we're doing, and I've got some people that aren't listening this month that are very excited to listen next month. So it's same format, but definitely a different collection of movies.
Different kind of vibe. Not as much face melding and fingers through head.
Right. And it's only fair. If we've enjoyed the movies we've watched this month, we need to ground ourselves a little bit. So,
yes. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So, well, Curtis, you want to sign off for us?
Sure. This is Curtis from Oz and Curtis here on Let's Talk About Flicks. We're great to have you with us, and we look forward to catching you next week.
Yep. Be sure to come back, and we'll see you then. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Bye.